This might be my last video with new content for a while, but I'll be spicing up some of my old videos, and I might pop in and out like maybe monthly before I really come back to this channel full go. I'll be busy and it could be a while. So I'm just gonna go through it. And I saw this title, Tariq Nasheed is not for reparations. We are getting reparations my birthday weekend. Okay, so he's saying we are getting reparations in his title. Garfield to me is so close to being full of shit. The one area where he actually makes sense, he motivated me to do this video, because the one area where he makes sense just blows his whole argument out of the water. So I'm just going to go through it, and to me this argument, this leap, this crazy conspiracy theory that he has is an indication on what really ends up being the root cause of black powerlessness. And it's not fighting on the same side for power. Instead, we're fighting against each other for power. Really becomes that simple. So I'm just going to let it play and I'll respond to it as it goes.
Tariq Nasheed, and there's some troubling things with Tariq Nasheed that I don't like. I don't think Tariq Nasheed wants people to get reparations. And people are going to say, Garfield, why do you say that? I say that. You're going to see in a minute why I say that. Alright? I think Tariq Nasheed, I don't know. I don't think this guy is good for our community.
He's talking like somebody whose money isn't right. Now just listen, maybe I'm wrong. Now Garfield always says his money's right, it's game tight, blah, 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 follow him, he'll show you how to make more. But he's talking like somebody whose money isn't right.
But he lives a white supremacy life. He does not want you to get money. Because if all black people do get money and is on the same level as him monetary wise, that means he doesn't have a career anymore. You see, a lot of these religious folks don't.
Whoa, we gotta pause that. That was the dumbest thing you could imagine him saying, because look, and this is why I say his money isn't right. He's looking at Tariq funny, but he's not looking at him with any type of wisdom. Tariq has admitted that he's a millionaire. Reparations. Even if we get it, if we get reparations real swell, I'm talking like 5 trillion, it's not going to make everyone millionaires. Reparations, especially the type of reparations that Tariq always argues for, would be checks for people, would be tangibles, would be money for people. That's what Tariq argues for. Matter of fact, I've made a video about how Tariq is dead set against the whole truth and reconciliation nonsense. Tariq is pushing and angling and arguing for money. But even that amount of money, even if it's, like 200,000, we put it into our houses, we put it into our debt, we put it into our child support, we put it into the next generation. It would sow the seeds to make us middle class more than, I would say bottom level wealthy, bottom level rich, which is what a millionaire who has businesses is. That's what Tariq Nasheed is. He's like bottom bitch millionaire or bottom bitch rich. I wouldn't even call him, to me, he's doing better than upper middle class. Upper middle class is like if you're worth 700,000 or less, 500,000, that's doing well. That's upper middle class from my perspective. I'm not there. That's doing real swell. That's next level stuff for 99% of African Americans. That's doing real well. So it doesn't make sense. But even then, let's say Tariq Nasheed gets what he wants. What he's pulling for, what Tariq Nasheed is fighting for, is tangible reparations, not the truth and reconciliation, where my hug, as Tariq Nasheed says, reparations. If he gets that, that means it would boost his business, because Tariq markets heavily to black people. He markets even heavier to white people. From what he said, that the money is in the game and the Mac Daddy books and all that. Not so much Hidden Colors. So, but even then, Hidden Colors, and he's done doing Hidden Colors, but he might do something else like I think 1804. He may do something else like that. He may do something else entirely. I think he's doing this buck breaking movie. Buck breaking would be far more successful if black people had paper than it will be in our current state. So what he's saying really doesn't even make sense, because he's saying that's why Tariq wouldn't want people to have reparations. Tariq would make more money if we had reparations. So he would want it, and that's what he constantly says. So his conspiracy is that he secretly doesn't want reparations, and he's basing this on something that would not help Tariq. I think he's projecting, because his money is not quite right, and he is not ADOS. And look, not everybody who's Jamaican is secretly like anti-real reparations. Not everybody's like that. I'm not saying this because the dude's Jamaican, because there's plenty of African immigrants, there's plenty of Haitian immigrants, Jamaican immigrants that are all about ADOS getting reparations. You know, if they've been here for 2 generations, but that they're not American descendants of slavery, they might try to angle for some Jim Crow descendant stuff. You know, we can talk about that, but they're in favor of this.
Truly, Daniela, let me call your name, because I have to call it every morning.
I fast forwarded a tad.
Really
now he's talking about this Hebrew dude, Daniela.
Scripture says, Scripture has no authority over me or people who have West African descent, not even over you, actually. So I want to know, why would people who are religious
now,
wouldn't want
wondering about this?
I'm serious though. Think about this for a second. If he wanted reparations,
this is another crazy conspiracy.
HR 40. Oh, because we don't need a study. We know what you did already, cracker. And white supremacists and of course I'm paraphrasing it. Let's think about this for a second, Mr. Tariq Nasheed. I might not get the views that you get, the 90,000 and stuff. I'm gonna get 2,000. Say like, oh, he's a small fry. Ain't nobody listening to him.
Dude, stop selling yourself short. This is why it comes off as a insecurity thing. You know, because I'll be real. For people that aren't familiar with Garfield, he is an AD history wonk. He's pretty good in debates. He does not have to sell himself short. He doesn't have to brood. That's bitch behavior. He doesn't have to do that and come up with ridiculous conspiracy theories when he could have done some research, as we'll see in a moment. Before we get to the end of the video, we'll see. And I won't even have to bring out the receipts, because if you've seen Hidden Colors, you know what I'm talking about. Okay? So that's the thing. You're coming up with these conspiracies because you're feeling inadequate because of how ADOS angled for reparations that don't include you. That's what it sounds like. Because let's be real, if you wanted to talk about why people have a problem with HR 40, they've already said it. It's because you have people like that pastor who was going into the whole respectability talk of politics. I'm talking about when that HR 40 hearing that Sheila Jackson Lee put up. You have a whole bunch of people who are behind this movement that are doing shiesty things that you're ignoring. Like that Thompson who assaulted an African immigrant and blamed it on ADOS. That's shiesty. You have Sheila Jackson Lee. You know, ADOS, one of the founders, Darity, one of his statements or essay or something was read during that hearing. So ADOS was actually part of that hearing. But here's the thing, and this is something that really rubbed me the wrong way at the very beginning, when Sheila Jackson Lee complimented the people who made this movement possible, who pushed for reparations. She complimented reparations advocates, but did not mention ADOS. That to me shows that the hater stuff is not coming from ADOS. It's coming from the people who are pushing HR 40. So why are they acting petty like this? Why was that hearing such a problem? Why would you have someone like Burgess Owens at the hearing? Or who was that? That wannabe Tom Cruise dude, the guy who was dancing in his drawers, Coleman Hughes. Coleman Tom Cruise Hughes. Guy thinks he's in risky business. Why would you have someone like that? Now you can make the argument, 042, let's play good cop, bad cop. We'll get a bunch of dummies like Burgess Owens and Coleman Cruise Hughes, and we'll have them make the anti-reparations argument. And then we'll have people who are articulate, like Julianne Malveaux and Ta-Nehisi Coates, and they'll make the pro-reparations argument, and we'll kick their ass on the world stage. Look, you don't need to do that. There is no anti-reparations argument. Let the people who are asking the questions make that argument if they want to, and expose them, because you already have the answers that defeat that argument. We've done that. That's the purpose of ADOS, was they educated thousands of people for why it's a good argument and how to make it. So you know, by adding these people who haven't done anything, where HR 40 has just sat around, and let's not forget that it's sat around for 30 years. Of course we're going to be skeptical about HR 40. How does something sit around for 30 years and now all of a sudden you have 4 times? I mean, you look at the people who are sponsoring HR 40 now. It's damn near all the Democrats are starting to do it. We're talking, it was like, 30 Democrats? Now it's like 130. So of course we're going to be skeptical, because now it's like, hey, no reparations, no vote. Well, we got this study. It's coming out of nowhere. It's not, on one hand it is organic. I'm going to say it's not organic because the Democratic Party is a party of the mule. You smite the ass and you tell it what to do, and then it does it. It reacts as such. But at the other hand, the Democratic Party doesn't necessarily act like an ass all the time when it should. It should be that loyal, dumb animal in the field that you direct and tell what to do because it works for you. That's what it should be. But I'm seeing too many underhanded things that makes me question this. Like, why was Julianne Malveaux so adamant that reparations isn't a check? And I don't want to check. This respectability politics is unnecessary. And it really hit me with that reverend. That reverend said, he was able to convince his congregation that, reparations is a good idea. I'm paraphrasing, because he made it more than a check, and it's not just a check. He sounded like he just spoke the voice of respectability politics, but he didn't understand why respectability politics doesn't work, because respectability has to go both ways. Now I know I'm breaking from the subject, but I really need to say this. This, out of everything, even Burgess Owens and Coleman Cruise Hughes, their nonsense, this rubbed me the wrong way, because the pastor didn't understand that if you have, let's say you're a reverend or whatever, and you have in your church, you have a variety of ethnic groups, right? But let's say you're black, right? If they respected you, they would be coming to you saying, hey, we heard you're in favor of reparations. How can we help? Instead, you're trying to earn their respect by saying that it's not a check. Well, we have to check that. So we're not just going to say, oh, you're signing HR 40. That's enough. In line, it just so happens. And, all these things, these weirdos, these Coleman Cruise Hughes, we're going to ignore this whole dog and pony show, all this nutty respectability politics. Reparations isn't a check. Well, it was for Jews and Japanese and white people and Native Americans. It's been more than a check at times, too, for Native Americans. That is a problem that Tariq has. Not that you're not going to have some sort of process where a bill has a study process. The bill, another problem that people have with HR 40 is it's poorly written, in the sense that it's shunking responsibility for future people instead of just writing it in the bill and saying, hey, we're going to have to do a set aside of blah, blah, blah trillions. You put that in the bill, and then I'll agree with you, Garfield. I'll say, hey, and we're trying to put it in the bill. We are actively, American descendants of slaves are trying to put set-asides in the bill and earmarks and anything that actually means that, okay, you have all these people signing it. Well, what does it do? And it turns into some goddamn South African truth and reconciliation hugathon. Well, now we know it can't because we've put in that it's not going to do that. We rewrite. No, this is about checks for people, And I compare it to the planet Earth. I'm not Garfield might be on some ridiculous conspiracy shit right now, but usually he's more of a conservative when it comes to just science. I would say he's more of a conservative than he should be when it comes to genetics, but that's because it's not his field. And it could be if he studied it a little bit more, but I digress on that. What I'm saying is, let me go back to the planet Earth. I believe the planet Earth is round, okay? And I generally believe that the model for what's inside of it is accurate. Now, I don't know how big the core is in relation to the mantle. I don't see how we can know that for sure because we can't drill that deep. We can only have mathematical estimates, which may work, may not work. But assuming that the planet really is shaped like it is in the history books, where you have the small core, the big mantle, and the thin crust, I compare reparations to that model, where the core and the mantle is the money. The crust is the social programs, the education, I would say changing the church, changing the mosque. So these institutions are justified by having some element of scientific competence and cooperation. That is where I am with that. And I would say, let me put on my respectability politics hat. If reparations is just a check, then it will be like a ball of fire. Okay. It has to be 90+% a check, but I don't want it to be just a check, and it cannot be a check. It has to be an incremental thing. America can afford to pay for it, going away easy. In the tens of trillions. Well, I won't say tens, but I will say America is talking at 3 and really rounding the corner to doing something worth a damn at 5. I'm not one of those people that are saying it needs to be 15, but I respect their opinion. America can do 1 trillion a decade easy. One thing I might do or suggest somebody else can do, or maybe if somebody hits me up about this, is I might have a ADOS video game club, but we'll just play one game, and that's Democracy 3, because I'd like to show you just how easy it is for America to pay reparations. Excuse me, let me keep going. This might be it. I don't know if I'm going to go much further.
He's going to see the notification with his name, and he's going to say that. Listen. His Hidden Colors movies, based on what I've heard, are garbage. They got Bill Valentine as an expert. They got, is David Imhotep in there? They got all type of weirdos in there, like some great historians talking nonsense. Montezuma is Mansa Musa. I mean, come on. And y'all expect people to buy this. Then he does a crowdfunding. To raise money. And then talks about Jamaica like they're a dog. I'm done with Tariq Nasheed. Y'all could like that Negro.
So he had a crowdfunding where he talked about Jamaica like a dog. I miss this. To me, this right now sounds like it's getting a little personal. The problem you're having, Garfield, is you've never gone after pseudo history on the History Channel or the Discovery Channel. You're not going after those liars and pseudo historians. So I'm not really feeling people who just flip it only for black people, especially when you have not seen Hidden Colors. Because had you seen Hidden Colors, yeah, I would agree. I'm not really feeling what I've seen so far in Hidden Colors 5. And I could go up and down and dissect what's wrong with Hidden Colors 1 through 4. But why would I do that when the History Channel is lying to us just as cold, if not worse? I'd say worse by far. Why would I do that when mainstream history is about that bullshit too? Because there's a lot of good stuff about Hidden Colors, and because you haven't seen it, you can't really talk about Tariq Nasheed and reparations.
Done with him. He gonna talk about Jamaicans like we're a dog. He was there doing the back-broken movie about how the slave master turned us into homosexuals and interviewing in Montego Bay. Let's take a look at what this clown did. He's a clown. I'm telling you, he's a clown. And I gotta give a shout out to Haven Bullets, man. I gotta give a shout out to Haven Bullets. Look at this guy attacking. He's attacking Sheila Jackson Lee just because she makes. Listen to this right here. Look at this right here.
Because Tariq Nasheed is attacking Sheila Jackson Lee.
He's not. Look, he said that Sheila Jackson Lee was Jamaican or half Jamaican, and that is one of the reasons why she probably would not be a good fit for HR 40 or any type of reparations push. Now, looking at how big of a debacle that goddamn thing was, that hearing was, I'm inclined to agree that she probably would not be the right person, but when I look at the Congressional Black Caucus, it's hard for me to see anyone who just jumps out as being that much better. Maybe. I'll probably pick people who aren't even in the Congressional Black Caucus that would be better than Sheila Jackson Lee. But anyhow, he plays this thing with Haven Bullets where Tariq is like showing somebody that she admits to be Jamaican.
Tariq will go to that area and suck off the people, try to use them for clout and all that, and then turn around and attack them for clout. That's what he does. Well, I'm gonna let you watch this quote-unquote receipt that Tariq said he got on Sheila Jackson Lee, and I'll break that down when I come back. Here we go, family.
Sheila Jackson Lee, a descendant of Jamaican immigrants. My grandmother and grandfather came by way of the Panama Canal. Today I can go to the Panama Canal and see my grandfather's name etched there, for he worked with his hands to build the Panama Canal. And then the family traveled with small suitcases to South Carolina and ultimately made a life.
I want to get past this part, but I don't want it to make it look like I'm picking and choosing and I'm co-signing this nonsense, because
recent immigrant grandparents,
all this is Tariq going back and forth with somebody who's saying she's really ADOS, and he's saying, here's my receipts, she is ADOS. And this is hypocritical, because this is the same Haven Bullets that act like he exposed Yvette Carnell for being on the board of Progressives for immigration reform, when Yvette said that she was on Progressives for immigration reform beforehand. She said it on Facebook that she was there. She explained why. And Haven Bullets still act like, ooh, he exposed something. This is something that people don't know. Hadn't gone back into some C-SPAN thing and didn't know it. And he's saying, well, this woman is not ADOS. I thought she was half ADOS. I honestly, to me, I don't even care. They could be white. They could be doing a better job than this. That reparations hearing was a dog and pony show. And like I said, my biggest problem was that pastor, and it was a couple other people. I know Julianne Malvo started hucklebucking with the respectability politics too. So I'm going to try to go past this, because that's his whole ridiculous argument.
That's not even him. A receipt is supposed to be, I'm exposing you, or I'm showing something that you're bringing. Her Jamaican heritage, telling her life story. And Dominican, I got receipts on that. Like, that's not a receipt, though.
Then it's not a receipt when you tell people that Yvette Carnell was on PFER when she was telling people on goddamn social media either, Haven. Let's keep it real. Let's keep it real.
And she was the one who sponsored HR 40, the bill that y'all was all sucking off in the beginning, and then y'all turned against because of
what are you talking about? HR 40 was not sponsored by her. It was sponsored by Conyers 30 goddamn years ago. Nigga, and you know that. It was sponsored by Conyers. Nobody was giving a damn about this goddamn thing. That's why it sat and didn't do shit for 3 decades until we started saying no reparations, no vote.
Found out that she sponsored it and so did Cobra outright it, so y'all trying to turn against it on some hating shit. But
No. The hating shit was on her when she didn't acknowledge who made it hot enough to quadruple, quintuple in co-sponsors. It was a movement that said no reparations, no vote, bitch, and it came from ADOS. That is when it got hot. And now you got people like in Cobra talking about they want some truth and reconciliation. Those are the people who you need to be checking, Garfield, who are not in favor of reparations. It's the people who are promoting reparations while respectability politicking it into not a goddamn thing, but money for them to implement some goddamn social policies and education policies while they continue to be the gatekeepers running those things and getting paid for it, because that's all that Cobra has done so far. You aren't hearing anybody from Cobra. You're not hearing Sheila Jackson Lee coming out and say, look, reparations needs to be about redistribution of wealth to make up for the wealth gap. It has to be in the people's pockets. You aren't hearing them make that point. So who's really secretly not in favor of reparations? Let's keep it real.
we're gonna move past that. We're gonna deal with this. Another thing. Sheila Jackson Lee can speak for black people in America because she's a black person in America.
Yeah, I'm going
y'all
past this.
literally created this whole slave in America, period.
No. You can't just be a black person in America and speak for black people. No, it don't work like that. It don't work like that. Otherwise, we'd have Jesse Lee Peterson's ass speaking for us, or we'd have Kamala Harris speaking for us. No. You gotta show that you are doing it. You gotta show that you are about black power. And when we start talking about, hey, show me that you're about black power, you know what the Congressional Black Caucus has to show? Not a goddamn thing. You know what Cobra has to show? Not a goddamn thing. None of them has a goddamn thing to show when we start talking checking power moves. But ADOS, because you wouldn't even have this discussion. They'd be talking about DACA and homosexuals and Nebraska and cornucopias and dinosaurs. They'd be talking about anything but reparations because they haven't talked about reparations. When I used to bring up reparations on your show, hold on, let me take this call. Goddamn.
And you can speak on all black issues. That's how blackness has always been in America.
And that's been a mistake because all they do is go get them some Sambos. They get them some Mammies. They get them some Hucklebucks. And then they have them speak for us. And they're talking about some goddamn truth and reconciliation. They're talking about is Tariq Nasheed, the Wear My Hood. They get them some Rolands. They get them that. So no. You are qualified to speak for us based on the power moves that you are making or have made. That's it. And you really got to show some papers and receipts with that if you're married to a white person. You know, and even then, just being married to a black person, that ain't enough because we'll end up with an Obama. So
That's how race identity is in America, period. Donald Trump is the president. He's a second generation German immigrant. And he speaks for all white people. And you don't see nobody saying, hey, who's this German speaking for us?
he does not speak for all white people. And with them, it's about his record. With Sheila Jackson Lee, it's about her record. Now, the reason why Tariq Nasheed brought up that she is an ADOS is when you start saying that all these black people that are speaking for us do not have lineages to slavery, people don't believe you. A lot of times I won't believe you. So I'm like, how do you know? And then he's like, boom, here's my receipts. That's it. So it's not that he's exposing her. It's that he's showing other people that this is a pattern and it's common, because you're seeing Garfield do this too. Because I used to call up Garfield, or not even call, just be in the messages on his videos. And I'm like, yo, we need to change the subject to reparations. You know what I get from Garfield is, no, we need to create our own reparations. So he was on that, in that group think where reparations isn't going to happen, so we're going to have to respectability our way and just outperform everyone, that Obama shit, to get reparations. And it won't truly be reparations, it'll just be us outperforming people. So let me keep it going.
Just like you never heard anybody say, hey, who is this Jamaican speaking for us? That's not how blackface work in America. Y'all niggas literally just made that up out of the...
Let me keep going. Let me keep going.
The American flag.
I'm only going to do about 10 minutes. There's something I want to get to.
Instagram. Why you rocking that flag? You rocking RGB. It's dumb, nigga. Listen to me. The reason why Rugby, you say I was looking like a coon? Call up Rugby. Rugby, I want you to call up. I want Rugby, I want you to call up. Wait a minute. I want Rugby right to call up. I want Rugby to call up.
Call up, Rugby. Yeah, Rugby, you need to call. Who the fuck is Rugby?
Yeah. And the thing is, the reason why the white supremacists win, because they know how to immediately get on code. They know how to get on code, and they don't have to explain the codes, because they have to explain the code, and it's not a code. Coons and dumb attention-whoring Negroes, either they are deliberately missing the point, they're trolling, or they're dumb as fuck.
Ooh.
Either way, they don't need to be in the
Dumb as fuck.
You're too dumb to understand how we need to be on code.
I co-sign that message.
You don't need to be in the bitch. You don't need to be at the conversation table. You don't need to be there.
This applies to the ice, as they say, the light bulb headed individuals. Chastity, where are you, Chastity? Chastity.
But understand,
Talib Smelly, where are you?
why people like Don King, y'all ever notice why Don King walks around with all those flags yelling, only in America, only in America. Oh, America.
Because he's cooning.
You know why he does that? A lot of folks think this thing's just cooning. Now, there's a little coonery with Don King.
He acknowledged that there's a little coonery with Don King.
Smart coon. I give him that. He's cooning.
Hey, he's a smart coon. I'll give him that.
Don King is he coons like a fox. Yeah, some people, it's not that they don't understand why I rock the American flag. It's just a way for them to troll more attention. It's just them being dumb.
These are Haven Bullet's receipts. And he's talking about Tariq's receipts. Like, this is nothing, Haven. This is nothing. This is nothing, Garfield. This is absolutely nothing. This is just Tariq blah blah blah. If you don't want to hear this, don't listen. Fast forward. Wait till he gets onto a subject you're interested in.
It's racism that drives these fights. So this is why when you have foreign boxers,
And a lot of this shit is true. This is true.
boxers who happen to be black,
This is what he's saying right now is true.
most of the white boxing fans will root for the foreign boxer. So Don King is overly patriotic in order to rub patriotism in the faces of the fake ass white supremacists who don't have a patriotic bone in their body.
As you heard, family, I had to do a whole separate video on that because it's much more explaining that he was trying to do than that. But let's just deal with what he was saying. One,
He came up with some weak ass things.
So you're saying that Tariq Nasheed is really a patriotic American. Okay. Is that your point? Do you want to lock that in, Haven? Are you so out of shit to say? Haven's not bad at debating. He's not bad at researching. What he is bad at is prioritizing, because he's not interested in black power. He is an agent of blab. So I'm fast forwarding through Haven because I want to get, there's one point I really want to get to. And he makes this, they go into the whole anchor baby thing. Look, if you've watched, if you've read I think it's Destruction of Black Civilization, Chancellor Williams, they go into detail. I mean, it's not just that. If you go into the fall of West African empires, how they were exploited by Europe, a lot of times it was, mix in that little mulatto anchor baby or two, and, there a lot of that went on. So there are stories of people going, like even the story of Shaka Zulu. He's from another clan, raised by somebody else, and then he turns on them, goes back to his mother's clan. I think it went down like that. But anyhow, that's what this whole anchor baby thing is about. And Tariq makes the point that anchor babies are the most destructive thing to black people.
They talk about everybody like a dog. Sometimes I gotta wonder, do these people really want reparations? So if you want reparations for the people, why aren't you working with the people who have the power to make it happen? One, the Republicans. Two, the Democrats. How?
Now he's getting to something I'm going to make a point about, but I want to first say he's criticizing a lot of times. He's talking about the Haven Bullets people. Now Tariq does work with the people that can make it happen. You know who that is? What are we living in? What is a democracy? Who controls the politicians? You. Tariq influences people who then get on Twitter, who then influence politicians, and that's part of the reason HR 40 has quintupled plus whatever algebra. That is part of the reason. Same with ADOS, but even then, you have, and I'm talking about the ADOS founders, even then in the ADOS movement, even then, Sandy Darity has worked with Marianne Williamson. They've invited politicians to go to their conference. You have to ask, why aren't all these politicians at the ADOS conference? But instead of asking that, you know what Garfield does? He says, why are they charging $30? And like, in ADOS, like I said earlier, Sandy Darity had a essay read, and I think it was read. I don't remember if it was read. I know part of it was, but it's mentioned if you look at some of the reviews. Like if you look at some of the press clippings, like I think of Washington Post, or let me see if I can find it. But anyhow, if you look up Sandy Darity and that hearing, you'll see that ADOS was part of it. Yet Sheila Jackson Lee, now you got to look at who's really being divisive, doesn't credit ADOS at all. So let me keep going, because these are, and this all comes down to working in competition against instead of with.
How do you go about doing that? 6 months ago, we had conversations here when I talked about lobbying. Who is the only lobbyist in Washington that's lobbying Congress to get reparations? NAACP. You bash them. So, but I don't think we need to lobby the Congressional Black Caucus. We need to lobby some of those down south politicians who are white. We need a...
Now, I want to leave it there because, and this is the thing about Garfield, he's not dumb. And this is why it disappoints me. But actually, I want to stop saying he isn't dumb, because what he does right here is really dumb to me. It's just, it's right next to a point that is absolutely correct. We need to buy politicians. The problem I have is he's criticizing Hidden Colors when Hidden Colors was telling us that we need to get our money right so we can buy politicians. This is fake because it's based on emotions, and I'm saying either his money ain't right or it ain't right enough to where he's feeling insecure. Because you're supposed to know this. You don't need these crazy conspiracies because people are looking at HR 40 funny, and they're looking at looking at a lot of the people who are promoting it funny because they're doing funny shit. And they're making this argument that reparations is not a check. Well, you know, it is a check for them because that's what HR 40's done. And Garfield has been okay with that. But instead of actually doing a little bit of homework, seeing the good things that are in, look, I'd be willing to bet he'd agree with probably all of 1804, like 90% of 1804. He'd probably agree with 70% of Hidden Colors. And that's he's just saying one thing right now that he agrees with. That we need to pool money and buy these politicians, the white ones. Nobody disagrees with that. Tariq was promoting this years ago in Hidden Colors. Not just promoting it, but doing it in style, because he had let me see. And I have a clip of that video. It was Claude Anderson. He has Claude Anderson going through a graphic about how you build power. And part of it was buying politicians. And there's only really one big reason, one significant reason why African Americans would buy politicians, and that's for reparations. Period, end of story. So even when Garfield is right, it destroys his whole premise because it's showing that he'd rather get to brooding and hating and conspiracizing when he could have just peeped the videos, probably would agree with 70%, and the 30 he doesn't agree with, he'd probably be right on most of that. But why make that move and that criticism of Hidden Colors? You're not checking the Max Planck Institute when they lie to you about some goddamn Neanderthals. You repeat that lie. Those two things, competing against instead of with, brooding. You know, I should say it's more than that. It's a brooding, and it's mostly those two. Because this does not make sense. This conspiracy, no. Tariq has been about reparations back when you were saying reparations needs to be created and paid by the people who are the victims of the human rights violations that even started the conversation in the first place. That's what Garfield was saying, that we need to pay our own reparations because the white men won't do it for you. And then he jumped on the and this will be the last thing I say, he started defending Cobra when Cobra has already showed that they're not competent. Even like if you look at Cobra's partial victories, maybe, you know, I forget where it was, and this is something I haven't looked at completely, but from what I've seen, they were able to sue some company. They're doing stuff in the private sector, but the thing is, they'll do stuff in the private sector and the benefits will be preferential loans, but they're getting paid going through all the court shit. And that ends up being the thing. Instead of getting reparations, you get a bureaucracy and you get some piecemeal and some whack-a-mole, you know, some half-ass reparations. It doesn't move the needle. Unless when you go through the private sector, you have to have a pool for everybody. And you can't take the BS reparations like the Anheuser-Busch reparations, where they had to market to black people. You know, they had to do some Black History Month art. No, it has to be a war chest, a pool of money that goes to everybody whenever you do stuff in the private sector. And they are not competent to do that because they know if to do that, it'll challenge their status. They might lose their position because now they're upsetting the system. They might get fired. Matter of fact, we'll see what happens. We'll see. But right now, and Cobra's looking funny, HR 40 is looking funny. And I'm not saying you shouldn't go out and you can't have an argument why we should vote for the co-sponsors. I think we should vote for the HR 40 co-sponsors. Even if it means voting for 130 Democrats, vote for 130 Democrats. Get rid of everybody who was an HR 40 sponsor. You know, don't vote for any president that isn't a strong reparations advocate and is about dollars and not, some truth and reconciliation. I don't care if it means you're voting all Republican. I wouldn't care if it meant you're voting all Democrat. I wouldn't care either way. I'm a liberal. I prefer it be Democrats. Right now, it's all Democrats in Congress and at the White House. It's yet to be seen. We need somebody to come out and start speaking the two major words, and that's check and trillions. We get that. Then you have a case against Tariq. But right now, you got people like Dianne Feinstein, who's wanting reparations to go away. You cannot trust the Democratic Party. I agree. Let's vote for the sponsors. I'll go there. You can make that argument with Tariq, but make that argument. We don't need you to come up with this grand conspiracy bullshit. Show the man enough respect to where you understand that his concerns are legit. Because when I start naming stuff from Dianne Feinstein all the way to that Thompson dude, you cannot blame anybody for being skeptical. Because there's a whole 40 years of this benign neglect coming from the Democratic Party. And that you have to break, and that's the only time we've come close to breaking it is now, because of ADOS, FBA. So that's it. I don't know when I'll be back, but I'll be back.